Caught my wife cheating twice in 5 years. I divorced her and am now happy with someone new, while she's stuck with her broke affair in a house she can't afford. There is hope on the other side without your cheating partner. I'm never posting my story in detail here, but I'm hoping that maybe someone comes across it and gives them some hope that life goes on. This subreddit has been invaluable to me. I caught my wife of 15 years cheating this past year. It was the second time she had cheated on me in 5 years. After the first time, we reconciled after she begged me to stay in the marriage. We had a tumultuous year-long honeymoon phase where it felt like we were totally in love once again. However, she went back into her pattern of leaving herself available to any guy that shows even the slightest interest in her. Her affair this year involved flying a man she was talking to on the internet to a conference she was attending in another state, which I found out about immediately. In the aftermath, she indicated that the affair was over and that she wanted me to stay with her. We have 2 children, but I was torn as it had become clear this was a pattern, a cycle that could not be broken. In the month following that day, I attempted to talk to her about the affair and my frustration with the whole situation. She responded with only gaslighting and blame shifting. Still, after a month, I told her that I agreed with her that we needed to save our marriage. She, however, responded this time with, "I can't make that decision with you right now." I spiraled. How could this woman who had cheated on me and then indicated she wanted to stay with me put me through this? Over the course of another month, I did my best to save our marriage, but she still didn't want to consider counseling or talk through our issues. It was one of the most depressive months of my entire life. I began talking with some friends and family about the situation, and their response was universally, "What on earth are you doing? Why are you trying to save a marriage that essentially has no hope?" As I spoke with them, I noticed a shift in myself. I started to change from, "I only want this woman to stay," to "You can find happiness without her." From "What about my kids?" to "My kids will do better in an environment where you are happy than one with such an imbalance between the two parents." One night, it shot through me like a lightning bolt. "You need to ask for a divorce." I walked into our bedroom where she was watching TV and said, "I want a divorce." She responded with, "Well, if that's what you want, I do want that." I was terrified I would regret my decision in the days following and come back to her on my knees pleading to save our marriage, but I didn't. Instead, what followed was actually a very amicable and agreeable split. Funny enough, our relationship near the end of our marriage was probably one of the best points in our marriage. I think it's because I just didn't care anymore. I didn't care how she felt about me as a partner. I wasn't going to let her determine my happiness anymore. In all honesty, I kept the house because she couldn't afford it, but she found an apartment nearby. We agreed on literally everything in our divorce, so we were able to do a dissolution of our marriage without a knockdown, drag-out fight over every little thing. We have 50-50 custody of our children. I'll give people going through this, or possibly about to go through this, some advice. If you can and you live in a state where you can do a dissolution versus a contested divorce, do it absolutely. Talk to an attorney, but there's a lot of advice on here to get down in the muck and do a knockdown, drag-out fight. But if you can come to a satisfying agreement between the parties, you need to do it. That said, always keep an attorney in your back pocket. Don't be afraid if you feel like your partner is being unfair or there's an issue that you can't budge on to use divorce to make sure you get what you want. But I can say, don't let the emotions of the affair feel like you need to use divorce to get revenge when you can likely come out much better on the other side if the process is amicable. I have started dating again, and I've actually met a woman that I really, really like. She is also someone who divorced due to an affair against her about 6 years ago. But most of all, there's no cheating with her. She and I share love languages and can be open and honest without the cheating that fed my marriage for so long. We're taking it one day at a time together, but this is the best I felt about myself in a very, very long time. My kids have adjusted to the situation, and what I was terrified most about, that my kids would never adapt or feel resentful, are, in fact, thriving. Kids are way more adaptable than we give them credit for. But I'm truly happy in a way I haven't felt. I make time for myself. I'm getting to travel more. I see my friends more often than I did when I was married. I get to make decisions for myself again. I've seen a counselor just to talk about this trauma in my life, and she has made me feel better that I wasn't crazy, that I experienced gaslighting for so long, and that it's remarkable I could push through it. It may seem like you're in depths of despair in the aftermath of an affair. Believe me, I know it. It may even seem more depressing when you have to come to terms with your marriage ending. But happiness exists on the other side. But you have to let go. You have to take your life back. And once you make that decision, you have to put that part of you in a box, take inventory, and move on. Your ex-partner is now in a relationship with her old affair partner. Who cares? That's not your life anymore. Your ex-partner is broken, likely irreparably, and they aren't going to change. You can't let their brokenness affect your happiness anymore. They can go be broken, but not on your watch and not in your emotions and your heart. Happiness is out there, and you may not find it immediately, but you can prune back the dead leaves and relieve yourself of the dead weight that's dragging you down. Because happiness you might find in a broken relationship with a broken person is just dead weight and is likely temporary and will always keep you from achieving fulfillment. Take care of yourself, friends. Hope and happiness are out there. Update 1. Sometimes I have to laugh at how they're all the same. It really is remarkable how similar the stories on here are, aren't they? I realize we all have our own experiences and our reactions to the experiences are different and valid, but it's incredible just how exhaustingly formulaic these people can be. This is especially true if the cheater focused early on via a texting relationship. The cheater finds someone that they swear they're just friends with, almost always of the opposite sex. The text threads are just always the same. One of them drops a touch of an innuendo here or there, just testing the waters because heaven forbid you just effing converse with someone instead of having to check to see if maybe there's some mutual sexual tension. After a while, the innuendo becomes joking between them. Of course, a normal person in a committed relationship would have told the other person to F off, but we're not dealing with normal people here. Then the innuendo and joking turns to less joking and more actual digital flirting. Then oops, here's a picture of me semi-bare, and then on to full bare later. Oh, but when you confront them, they say something to the effect of, they are just a friend, but they are a friend that just really gets me. Any notion that perhaps something nefarious is at play is met with gaslighting. When I was going round and round with my ex-wife and her multiple affairs that almost always began via texting, I had the nerve to ask her, why don't you just effing stop? What is it about your brain that either tells you to joke about sex with another man, or if the man jokes about it first, keeps you from telling him to F off? Anyways, reading through stories on here just helps affirm to me these are fundamentally broken people who, by and large, subscribe to the Hollywood tropes of what cheating is like, just something. On my mind this morning, that cheaters can't even be original enough in their cheating and are also absolutely terrible at covering up their lies. Update 2. It's been a year. I realized it's been a year since my ex-spouse moved out of my house, and that this community helped me realize my marriage was overdue due to her infidelity. In late 2022, I figured you all deserve an update. TL. After the affair, wife cheated on me in 2017, we reconciled, and then she did it again in 2022. It's been a year since she moved out, and our divorce was finalized. First off, my relationship with her is fine. We share 2 children, so that part was never going to change. I couldn't just cut her out of my life, and I did want to make sure my kids didn't end up in therapy. Our relationship, I would call it good. We can communicate fine. We are able to ask each other for child coverage during work trips, handle hiccups in the schedule, etc. We have 50-50 custody, but I do pay child support. Otherwise, my relationship with her is friendly, but not a friendship. We live in Ohio, and her affair partner, this last time, lived in Florida while she continued this relationship. He left his child in Florida with his ex to buy a house with her about 3 miles from where I live. They bought their house in November 2023. He lost his job in December 2023. I do not know why, but he did, and he is, as of this posting, still unemployed. Let me be clear in saying that my ex cannot afford the house they purchased on her own. She makes about $56,000 per year, and their house was $45,000. They took out a loan for $365,000. It's not my problem. It is, however, funny our friends have largely sided with me and alienated her because I was direct about what happened. Her affair partner. When I met him the first time, he wouldn't look at me, but I actually initiated it and showed his hand and said his name. My name? I know you very well from all the pictures and texts you sent her. Since then, anytime I've seen him, he does not look at me. I love it. Second off, my kids are great. They seem to not have a major issue with the split and do appreciate their time with each parent. However, when his kid comes to visit, he has to sleep in my daughter's room. She's 9, he's 4. The first time they brought him up here, he was very scared and basically talked to my daughter all night. A note on this. Literally, he moved away in November. He came to Ohio in December, landed on a plane, and 2 hours later was put in a house he's never been in a bed he's never slept in with a girl he's never met, and expected to be fine. My daughter prefers my house in this situation because she says she can actually go to sleep. Lastly, me, I'm thriving. I live in our marital house because I could afford it and she couldn't, so I didn't have to move. She was also so effing eager to leave to the point where I got an excellent deal on the equity buyout and literally got all the furniture and belongings except one couch, one TV, her vanity, and that's basically it. I met a wonderful person that is truly just a breath of fresh air. She is also someone who divorced due to an affair against her about 6 years ago, but most of all, there's no cheating with her. She and I share love languages and can be open and honest without the cheating that fed my marriage for so long. We're taking it one day at a time together, but this is the best I felt about myself in a very, very long time. My kids have adjusted to the situation, and what I was terrified most about, that my kids would never adapt or feel resentful, are, in fact, thriving. Kids are way more adaptable than we give them credit for. But I'm just happy. I'm truly happy in a way I haven't felt. I make time for myself. I'm getting to travel more. I see my friends more often than I did when I was married. I get to make decisions for myself again. I've seen a counselor just to talk about this trauma in my life, and she has made me feel better, that I wasn't crazy, that I experienced gaslighting for so long, and that it's remarkable I could push through it. It may seem like you're in depths of despair in the aftermath of an affair. Believe me, I know it. It may even seem more depressing when you have to come to terms with your marriage ending, but happiness exists on the other side. But you have to let go. You have to take your life back. And once you make that decision, you have to put that part of you in a box, take inventory, and move on. Your ex-partner is now in a relationship with her old affair partner. Who cares? That's not your life anymore. Your ex-partner is broken, likely irreparably, and they aren't going to change. You can't let their brokenness affect your happiness anymore. They can go be broken, but not on your watch and not in your emotions and your heart. Happiness is out there, and you may not find it immediately, but you can prune back the dead leaves and relieve yourself of the dead weight that's dragging you down. Because happiness you might find in a broken relationship with a broken person is just dead weight and is likely temporary and will always keep you from achieving fulfillment. Take care of yourself, friends. Hope and happiness are out there. Update 3. Today, my husband finally called his mother up and told her that he doesn't want to hear from her or his siblings unless they change their ways. They'll also have to find their own source of income since he isn't going to continue supporting them his entire life. Just as I'd expected, this decision was met with uproar on their end, and I could hear my mother-in-law screaming at my husband, even though his phone wasn't even on loudspeaker. There was a pretty nasty argument that broke out between them, and since I was in the same room as my husband, I heard every single word of it. My mother-in-law obviously tried to blame me for this and said that I must have influenced his decision to cut them off somehow. She also accused me of trying to break their family apart and said that my husband shouldn't let himself get manipulated by his wife again. The irony of her telling my husband not to allow himself to get manipulated was pretty funny to me. Obviously, my husband defended me to the best of his abilities and even told her that his siblings need to find decent jobs because they're all adults now, and it's pretty pathetic that they still have to rely on him to provide for them. His brother even said that the only duty he should be fulfilling was that of a son and a brother since I was a gold digger anyway, and didn't deserve to have a husband like him in the first place. That pissed me off, and I lost my cool at that point. I snapped at him and told him exactly what I thought of the lot of them. They were all lazy, good-for-nothing idiots who were surviving solely on the kindness and generosity of my husband, since they themselves were incapable of doing anything for themselves, and that they were pretty much the definition of gold diggers. Moreover, not only were they hovering around my husband constantly for money, but they also had the audacity to be so ungrateful and target him after all that he's done for them. They were stunned into being silent, and I could see that they were struggling to fight back but had nothing to say. Taking advantage of that, I told them to get out before I reported them to the cops for showing up uninvited and then refusing to leave. So they left, but my mother-in-law still believed that she could convince my husband to choose them over me. So she said that his father would be disappointed had he been alive to witness the way they've been treated by their eldest son. Today, I thought it was really just low and disgusting to play that card constantly to emotionally blackmail my husband. By the time they'd driven away, I could see that my husband was barely holding it together. He started sobbing uncontrollably as soon as they left, and I had to spend hours calming him down. I felt terrible about this whole thing and wished that I'd never tried to throw my mother-in-law a birthday party in the first place at all. But then again, that was what had led to this kind of turmoil being opened, and I'm grateful that this happened sooner rather than later. Anyway, after his family left, I blocked them everywhere from his phone and social media as well, and made sure that they couldn't get to us online. After he had calmed down enough, I told him that it was about time that we started looking into lawyers because I was sure this wouldn't be the last that we would be hearing from his mother and siblings. And he agreed with that because, as much as he hated to admit it, he was well aware that his family was willing to go to any lengths to get some money out of him. So we started looking for family lawyers just to be on the safe side. And we were definitely right to have done that because within days of that fight, my mother-in-law sent us a legal notice demanding that he pay them an extravagant sum of money as compensation for stealing tons and tons of money from them after his father's death to start his business. It was appalling to me that she and her children were willing to lie about something so huge and defame my husband. He'd never taken a single dollar from whatever his father had left them, but had only used money that he'd earned himself. He was completely self-made, and even claiming such a thing was an insult to his integrity. I was furious that they dared to propagate such a lie, and since my husband's company is a pretty big one, it got a lot of people talking as well, which did affect his business too, and that was dumb on their part. However, we were able to prove after almost 2 weeks that they were lying and not one word of their claims was true.